So I don't know about you, but my neck hurts from the whiplash of markets, both crypto and the stock market over the last week. Just looking up and down, this kangaroo market is pretty bananas. But more on that in a second. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, the weekly podcast of people actually working in crypto, talking about the things that are important that you should know in the industry. No FOMO, no shilling, just people having a good time and telling you what's good. Think of us like your favorite pizza place that does a revolving pizza every week. You love the pizza, although the topics probably change. I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, no,
That's pretty good.
I'm your host, Vince, and today I'm joined by Kale, our resident degen.
Hello, what's up?
Katya from the Mew team.
Hey, Vince.
And someone that I would certainly never leave in Mexico, Samaja from my Ether wallet.
Hello, crypto world.
All right, so
I feel like we need more on that.
We should definitely talk about that more later.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that under the behind the scenes. So before we talk about the tariffs and the insanity of the market, let's kind of look at something that's a bit more stable, I guess, in the market, and that is the launch of Ripple's ETF and their acquisition of Hidden Road, which is the second largest acquisition in the crypto space right now. For me, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I would have clocked that Ripple would have been the next ETF. That kind of came out of nowhere.
Sure
Yeah. So let's talk about that part first. Like, what are your feelings on this, Kale?
It's crazy. I personally think it sets a bad precedent, but who am I? I'm just a degen trader person on chain. Like, what do I know?
So bad
But,
precedent how?
Yeah, the way I see it is like, if Ripple's getting ETF, like, okay, give Tezos an ETF, give Tron an ETF, give Cardano an ETF. And I mentioned this in prior episodes. It's like, and if we're at that point, it's like, where do we draw the line? Start giving meme coins ETFs. Give everybody ETFs. You get an ETF. You get an ETF. So it's like, I don't know.
And now we know how Kale feels about Ripple.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like, I don't know who's is XRP actually like an active chain that people use, or is this like why do they get an ETF? I don't know. I don't get it. I didn't know that they're as popular as they are, but maybe I'm just living under a rock and I need to learn what XRP is actually doing, because they do real things apparently. So I should learn more about them.
Launching a leveraged ETF is a real thing. Kale, I've got some news for you. It's not. Katya, what about you?
Well, so I thought it was really interesting that the two pieces of news happened concurrently with the acquisition and the ETF. I assume it's not a coincidence, at least that they announced it at the same time. And I read a little bit about the acquisition, and they bought it's called a prime broker, which I'm not sure what that is. I think, Vince, you would be able to explain more what it is. But I did read that one of the things that's supposed to happen is that this prime broker is going to use Ripple's stablecoin, something RLUS something USD. And so I think it's what we talked about in previous episodes, how like TradFi and crypto rails are combining to make more things possible. I think it's one of those, and that's why it's it's getting the attention it is, and maybe that's what makes it kind of not a stupid ETF, because they're planning to leverage this kind of interaction of the Ripple stablecoin and this broker who already does like billions and whatever in volume to make things possible in TradFi that haven't been possible before. Like, this is happening in a lot of places at once with crypto and TradFi, but maybe they'll show us something that we haven't seen before. So I don't know.
That's fair. What do you think, Samaja?
I feel like I kind of understand why they got it. I'm familiar with Ripple, and I've been familiar with them. Like, they've been around for a long time. I do wonder who should follow. I am surprised that they did such high numbers, but I'm interested to see what comes from it, honestly.
Yeah, and I do like that they kind of like coupled these. You're right, Samaja. There's no way it was an accident that these two things happened at the same time, right? They're really trying to lean in and be like, we are a legitimate company that does M&A and an ETF. And I think you're right, Samaja. Like I think we're going to see some interesting things come out of this across the board. I just don't know what. if that's silly to say, because like Kale, I am familiar with XRP as like an asset from a zillion years ago in crypto, and I've seen their branding everywhere at crypto conferences. I've never used the chain. I don't think I've ever met a project that's like, oh, this is what we're building on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ditto, dude. Like, I see a lot of like TradFi people talk about XRP. Like, it's on the news for sure. But like actual on-chain builders and like the Twitter degens, at least, like I've never heard any of those people mention XRP or like doing anything on XRP. So I don't know. I'm probably just in the wrong crowd.
Yeah. I think it's also cool to see these acquisitions because, I mean, I know this wasn't on our prep sheet for the document, but Magic Eden just did a massive acquisition as well, right?
Yeah, they just acquired somebody. Who was it? There's too many acquisitions.
It was
happening.
an exchange or something.
Yeah,
so they're
it was an
like,
exchange.
They're like going
Slingshot.
beyond NFTs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Slingshot.
And that just blew me away because that should have been OpenSea like 3 years ago, right? OpenSea went from being like one of the most preeminent things to be replaced by Magic Eden, who is now... Go ahead.
You know what's so funny about that? This is like a random tangent. I watched... Okay, so there's a Netflix documentary that just released called Minted. It's about NFTs. Mm-hmm. And in the documentary, it just dropped like last week or something, very recently. And they go in about like how OpenSea is the most popular, still to this day, most popular exchange. And if OpenSea goes down, then NFTs are ruined forever. So crypto needs to be more decentralized. And I was thinking like, dude, OpenSea, nobody's used OpenSea for years. Like Magic Eden's where it's at now. But I mean, whatever.
Yeah, which NFT platform are you using, Samaja?
I'm actually still OpenSea, but now I feel like I should venture out because apparently I'm in the wrong crowd.
OpenSea, they're OG. No, they're OG for sure. But like when the documentary said that OpenSea is the only one that people use, I was like, no, for sure no.
Well, like crypto moves too fast for anything, and especially for filming, right? Like
True that.
by the time you see something, it was filmed like 2 years ago, unless like they did it on the phone and released it on TikTok or whatever. But like, so yeah, and crypto is too fast for that, for a documentary for sure. By the time they cover it, like everybody died.
Yep, true that.
Well, speaking
went to jail.
Well, speaking of dying and going to jail, let's go ahead and move on to the DOJ shutting down the crypto investigation unit to focus on other things such as terrorism and fraud. And this is bonkers to me because, like, we all know that crypto has its fair share of fraud. It's crazy to me that they're pivoting away from this when, from where I sit, so much fraud happens that's so easy to kind of like trace and actually crack down on bad actors that I feel like we are in the 2025 crime is legal phase, which is kind of disheartening because I think the removal of this entity, maybe even if it was toothless, is kind of a step back because it kind of promotes a bit more of the Wild West attitude, which I'm not a huge fan of. But Katia, what do you think? Am I all doom and gloom?
Well, the thing is that I found interesting was that some of the coverage of it, the releases were like, but the DOJ is still very focused on targeting or people who defraud investors, right? Investment fraud and terror organizations. So they're still focused on that. And after reading that list, I was like, so what was the cryptocurrency unit focused on before?
Builders,
like, yeah, obviously we should target people who defraud investors in terrorism. But like, was there like other objects to the cryptocurrency just targeting, so it just seemed kind of funny to me that they're like, okay, maybe we don't need, so I guess I don't agree with you, Vince, that like it's doom and gloom, because maybe they just looked at it and said like,
these guys aren't doing shit all.
Yeah, like maybe we don't need like the bread and butter of what we are supposed to do. We are still supposed to do, but maybe we don't need a dedicated unit. Like it was just funny to me that they were like, "We're gonna focus on this." It's like, no shit. Weren't you supposed to be focusing on that before? Like, what was the target list of the cryptocurrency unit? I'd like to see. So.
I mean, it certainly wasn't meme coins and rug pulls, because we see that, with the Hawk Tua coin and, the Trump coin.
To be fair, though, apparently, so they're shutting down the crypto investigation unit, but they still have a unit that investigates crypto, which is like under the House of Attorneys or something. I don't. It was in the article. I forget exactly what it was called, but yeah, like Katya said, there's still people investigating crypto, so it's not like a complete lost cause, and it's just they're focused on like terrorism and fraud now, which, yeah, is I think it's good. I think it's cool. At least like builders, random people like building open source things won't be targeted randomly, or they don't have to worry about being targeted anymore in America. So that's cool.
Okay. So Maja, let's make it a three-peat. Tell me how I'm wrong.
Oh, you are wrong. No, I'm just playing. I do agree kind of with Katya, because when I read the article, I was like, well, what was going on before? So I looked up what was happening before to see kind of like what I was missing. And it seems like they're pulling away to do some of the same. I don't know if they're just rewording it so it can seem like they're trying new stuff, or, something is more official happening. But I don't understand the difference. But I think it's necessary. I think it's important for them to pinpoint what they are investigating, even though they haven't told us. But I do think that it's important and it's necessary.
Yeah. I think I might just be panicking about government inefficiency, and I'm just like, they're not gonna do anything. It's gonna be like the DMV, and no one's gonna do a damn thing. But I don't know.
Probably closer to the truth than not, to be honest. But it's better than nothing, man.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I caught CoffeeZilla's video on it. When he's like, "Well, crime is legal," and I just am like, "Yeah, you're not wrong."
Dude, the government just needs to hire CoffeeZilla and Zach XVT.
I mean, I'm here for it. Like, I do think those guys do great work at policing all of the insanity in this space. They just don't have anything to like punish people with besides the court of public opinion.
Meanwhile, the SEC roundtables continue. There's going to be one tomorrow, which is going to have, I think, Coinbase and Uniswap invited. So, which is funny. Like it's like this big like Modern Family kind of thing. They sued them and now they're invited to dinner. It's great.
We'll have to talk about all the arguments that come out of that next week.
When the Mew invite, though.
No.
It'll be a while before they start inviting wallets, I have a feeling. But speaking of wallets, Kraken just announced their Verify, which is, as I understand it, allows you to verify who you are on chain without giving up your privacy. Do I have the way of that?
Yeah. So basically, and it only works on InkChain for now.
Right.
So Kraken dropped their L2 InkChain recently. And on top of that, they just dropped this thing called Kraken Verify, which, like you said, it allows you to verify your on-chain address, that it belongs to you, basically. And the way it works is like this ETH attestation thing, which devs are very familiar with, but I am not. I don't know exactly how it works behind the scenes. But apparently, so you go to the Kraken Verify website, you connect your wallet, you sign a message, and then it creates an ETH attestation on chain, and then you go to your Kraken account, and then it verifies that transaction somehow, and then after that, this wallet over here, and then your KYC'd Kraken account that prior had nothing to do with each other, are now verified on chain, on InkChain at least. Yeah. So it allows users, to participate in things that before you needed to like jump through a bunch of hoops to do KYC on chain. So yeah, it's just like KYC tech being moved forward, and the on-chain data is like not what's the word? It's not sensitive data either. So you can it's verification that you're you without like giving all your data away publicly, basically. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see. Nice to see us working in that direction.
I think it's also really kind of cool to see a unique use case on a L2, right? Because Inc is their
True.
L2, and I can't think of another kind of like unique use case that has actually come to light on an L2. They're all just like, we're cheaper.
Yeah, yeah,
you
no, like
know.
maybe ZK Sync because they have like ZK stuff, but yeah, you're right. L2s are normally just like copy pastes.
Yeah, Katya, you're shaking your head at me.
Well, I'm still thinking about the verify, and I'm kind of like, how is this? Is this like login with Google except with Kraken? Because whenever there is so let me backtrack a little bit. Like, I'm a little bit of a maxi in terms of like self custody and privacy, and so whenever there's a conversation about how like we're going to do self custody, but it's going to be like more convenient because we're going to somehow combine it with centralized services and whatever. And my brain just kind of goes like this. And I have trouble really grasping how I think it's probably because I'm not familiar enough with the tech of keeping certain things private while exposed. I do understand that it's probably the future of blockchain and finance generally, and I do like the idea. It's just that with specific instances, I'm like, so how am I not just doxing my self-custody wallet here? Like, somebody would have to like explain it to me with tech, kind of, so I could understand, because my initial reaction is like, this is just me KYCing myself, and how is that any different? I guess it makes it more convenient that like in one go I'm KYCing myself for a bunch of things that Kraken is going to provide on Inc, which is fine, I guess. But like, what is that? How is that really like privacy forward? So like, I lack understanding to really enjoy something like this. So that's why I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like a walled garden of their own ecosystem of just providing the like you said, the login with Google, but you'll be able to log in with that KYC wallet and be able to do all sorts of fun stuff, which I think is interesting and kind of a unique proposition. Samaja, you look like you have a thought.
I think I don't understand what the fun stuff is. Because I understand the process before and how it was super like invasive. Like they wanted your social, they wanted your email, they wanted your address, and I'm like, whoa, this is a lot. And I understand the process now. Like Katya said, I don't understand like the math behind it. So I'm not a developer, but I understand what they want from it. But I don't understand like why we're doing it or why we need to do it. I
Because it's
understand.
worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, part of me, with our wallet products, I could see a use for that being like, we have a number of on-ramper providers, and if I didn't have to like KYC with each on-ramper provider, that would be really convenient, right? If I could just be like, cool, give it to me, rather than be like, okay, now I have to sign up for MoonPay, and now I have to sign up for Coinbase Pay, and now I have to sign up for Topper.
But what's interesting? Like in the crypto space, they've been talking about like a universal blockchain login forever. Remember,
True.
like in when we went to DEF CON in Bogota, that was what, like 3
3
years
years ago,
ago?
yeah.
3 years ago, and there was a lot of presentations about universal logins by people who are well known in the industry. Like everybody was excited to go see their talk, and there's been so much, and it hasn't happened. And now you see like, rather it's things like this with like a big exchange like Coinbase or Kraken or whatever working on their own on-chain to off-chain ramps, or like self-custody to centralized connections and ramps. So like it's more of a branded universal login, but as you say, Vince, in a walled garden. So that hasn't happened. It hasn't gone forward. I wonder why.
I mean, I think that's a great point. At the end of the day, I think it's like people are concerned with retention. And I think if you have a tool that kind of lets you go anywhere, you're going to go anywhere. So I do think there is something to be said for the walled garden kind of, killing all of that.
But isn't it that point of crypto, like of decentralized crypto. Isn't that the thing?
Exactly.
True, but also
Yeah.
this is like a first step, like this doesn't need to be like the final step in it. It's just like a step in the direction that we need to be going.
And it'd be nice to see,
Okay.
okay, if like this kind of like takes off, and then it's like, okay, how do we break this out and just do this with all of Ethereum instead of just this,
Yeah,
let's think of it like an MVP. I kind of like that. Let's pretend it's an MVP.
So, Kale, you think like once they take some of your freedom away, they'll give it back later
Exactly.
No,
when
no,
it gets
I
better?
think, no. I think that
Exactly.
things like this are required to figure out the right way. Like this might not be the right way, but we need to do things like this to figure out that it's not the right way. And then we'll be like, oh, okay, well that was wrong. So let's try this now.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm not a builder. So all I can do is just like see what these builders are presenting and pick my favorites.
Just vibe check them.
Exactly.
Samaja and I are both moms, and we are just like,
No.
that is not how you do like
Right.
do it and figure out that like you're gonna break your neck and then figure out that maybe you shouldn't have done that.
Is that not how you raise children? You're like, yeah, just go play, and if you hurt yourself, well, you won't do that again.
It's trial and error. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Fail fast and grow from it. Well, speaking of failing fast, let's talk about the markets of the last week. And, there's been a lot of talk about tariffs. We're not going to talk about whether the tariffs are good or bad, because there's everyone talking about that, and my TikTok is absolutely rife with people talking about that. What I kind of want to talk about is, let's zoom out, and we've seen massive swings of over 10% on traditional finance, which is bonkers. Crypto, sure, 10% in a day. Yeah, we see that happen all the time. Traditional finance, insanity. But let's kind of zoom out and like, what does this kind of volatility mean for the crypto industry? What is kind of your take on how the broader builders and makers and companies in the crypto and blockchain space, what does this mean for us? Kale, kick us off.
It's hard to say, dude. Honestly, like, like you mentioned in the beginning, like my neck's about to break. Like I'm getting whiplashed. This 90-day tariff pause could be gone in 90 minutes, let alone 90 days at this point. So it's like I don't know what to expect. I'm on my toes. I'm like very anxious about everything Trump says about tariffs because the market's going crazy about it. But as far as like how this affects crypto or how crypto's responding to it, I like the price action at least because watching the stock market dump as hard as it did and then seeing how well Bitcoin held up in comparison to me is a good sign that it's becoming more of like a safe haven asset over time where people will be willing to park their money in like crazy inflation volatility times. I think it's too early to, say for sure, but as time goes on, it seems like more and Bitcoin is becoming a safer bet for people, so it's cool to see.
Yeah. Katya?
I mean, like we would in content about crypto and talking about volatility, we would often say, the space is young, so it's volatile. With time, it may become more like the markets that we are used to, kind of less volatile, more reliable. It then seems like the opposite is happening. The regular market is coming over to like the crypto kind of ways of, just crazy volatility based on some bullshit thing like a fake tweet or whatever, and it's just stupid. But I saw this meme the other day about millennials and how and I looked it up later, that millennials have lived through the most recessions or whatever of any generation in US history, and the meme was heading into the fourth recession or so, and it just made me think of I think people who have been in the crypto market, maybe like, I don't know, like I'm not a trader, okay? Like, did it prepare you in stress terms, like for the stress that you're experiencing now in the tradition? Like, are we seasoned? Like, are we better prepared for what seems to be like the new normal for normal markets? Maybe we'll be better
God,
survivors, you know? Like, no.
God, no.
No. So yeah, I think, and you know, just looking at the craziness, I don't know, like I guess I feel like even though I'm not a trader, maybe it's because I'm not a trader and I don't actually have like a lot of skin in the game. I feel like I'm more Zangfroid about the market doing its thing because, you know, I've seen crypto do so much bullshit. I'm like, oh yeah.
Here we go again.
There we go again, right?
chill.
Yeah. So,
Talk to me about this volatility, Samaja. What are your thoughts?
I don't know yet. I think it's interesting to watch just to see how it fluctuate, and I think it's interesting by me being not really like Katya say a trader, but I'm kind of in both spaces where I'm not really in crypto, but I work for crypto. So, you know, I got one foot in the game and then my outside world is nothing about crypto and kind of seeing how those two worlds are kind of merging because everybody's talking about how everything is going up and down. It's like, you know, my mom who used to pray that I get real employment because I was working at a crypto company to now she's telling me, oh my God, check on my money. Her money being $50, but check on my money and eat. It's like it's interesting to see that because it's happening. You know, both worlds are kind of colliding, and how everything is happening with the price going up and down with the markets and stuff.
It's crazy that the people with $50 are always the most concerned about what's going on in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this is like super exciting to see this volatility because I feel like this is highlighting problems and like symptoms of a bigger problem in our financial institutions, which the last time we saw this was 2008. And from that 2008 crash is where we got Occupy Wall Street, is where we got Bitcoin. So, you know, as I see what I perceive to be problems, I'm excited to see what solutions crypto can derive from fixing these flawed institutions, if they even can. But I think this is going to pave the way for some interesting builders and some really interesting projects.
Bitcoin 2.0, let's go.
Maybe. Who knows? It could be something else entirely different. It could be bottle caps. We're gonna be living in the Fallout universe now.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, right?
Start collecting.
Know, exactly. Well, you know what's also been fun? This podcast, because this brings us to the end. I just wanted to thank you, dear listener, for tuning in. We what? Aw. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. You should feel smarter because you are. Links to all of our Twitter handles are in the description and the notes below. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next episode. Say goodbye, everyone. Bye, guys.